Thank you for tuning in to the Canine Culture Podcast. Please make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform and make sure you're following us on social media. If you have any recommendations, any topics that you'd like to hear, if you know of any guests that would be good for the show, or if you yourself want to be a guest, please reach out to us. Send us an email at canineculturepodcast@gmail.com or send us a direct message on social media. Thank you for listening, and please share this with any of your dog-loving friends. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast. This is your host, Brittany, and today we are joined by Elizabeth. She is the founder and executive director of Barky Pines Animal Rescue. So, Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, tell us a little bit about how Barky Pines got started.
Barky Pines got started really from the need in our community. My husband and I had thought about, when we retired from the auto body business, thought about starting a rescue, but the economy was in a really rough shape in 2008. So we decided to wait. However, we moved to an area in Palm Beach County called the Acreage. And this stray dog had shown up one day, and the neighbor said, "Oh, go on this local lost and found group." So I did, and I posted a picture of the dog, and nobody was looking for him. He was a little low rider pit bull with very tight cut ears and real sweet dog. Um, and while we were out working, the neighbor decided to call animal control to have it scanned. I said, "Okay, that's fine." We left him in the garage and whatnot, and they came, and we got back, and he was gone. And the neighbor said, "Oh, I didn't. I told them to just take him because my daughter wanted him, and I really didn't want him." I said, "Well, that wasn't really your decision to make." Long story short, I started getting involved with this lost and found group more and more because I'm noticing now all these stray and abandoned dogs in our area. And I guess people think, it's the country, whatever, I'll just, let my dog out or to roam free or, good place to dump dogs. And the dogs we couldn't
Right.
find the owners for ended up at the county municipal shelter. And they were so overcrowded, and there was probably close to 5,000 dogs that year. So it was about 5,000 dogs that year. And I said, "Well, where are all the rescues? I know there's so many rescues out there. Where are they? Why are they not getting the dogs from there and making some room for this, open admission shelter?" And they said, "Well, the majority of them are going out of the area for dogs." And I thought, well, this is unacceptable. And with that, I said, to my husband, "Why don't we just do it? We'll do what we can with what we have and the time that we have." And Barky Pines was born. And then my sister moved down from up north, and she was helping us. She came down to help us. And here we are 10 years later. And now we're on a 6-acre property, just about 6 acres. And we rescue not only dogs, and we've got a bunch of cats, but we've got farm animals out here as well. So when horses and pigs and goats end up at the county shelter, we get them out of there and bring them here. And, we have some adoptions, which is great. Whoever may be not able to be adopted, we have for sanctuary. So it's challenging, but it's very rewarding at the same time. So our mission is focused on those county animals because those are the ones that are truly at risk. And we used to have the ability to take owner surrenders as well, but in the past year and a half, 2 years, we're seeing not only here in Palm Beach County and throughout the state, but really throughout the country, from what I understand, in most states, we're seeing a, a problem with surrenders and abandonment that has just put us in a crisis. The county municipal shelter is consistently over capacity, doubling up dogs, trying to get dogs out of there. That creates the more of an environment for disease. They had a zoonotic pandemic last year, and a lot of dogs are getting sick, so we run into that. But between the shutdown and life changes, as a result of all of that, we don't think about, future consequences. But as a result of that, um, we're seeing, the poor economy, increased in housing costs, and people having to downsize, more, breed specific rules. If you live here, you can't have
Hmm.
this type of dog or this weight dog, or things of that nature. So we're really in a difficult situation here. So we're focused, laser focused on saving the absolute urgent dogs that will actually lose their life if they don't get out of the county shelter.
Right. Yeah, and so you guys have that pretty large facility. How many dogs would you say you have on property right now?
75.
And then do you guys also use fosters? Like, do you use fosters for any of the older dogs or maybe some of the medical cases?
Some of them, yes. We selectively use fosters, mostly people that we know. I thought we have a clinic here as well, so I have a vet here almost every day of the week. So really, the medical dogs, it's actually easier for us to care for these dogs than ourselves. We do have some, close acquaintances and dear friends that will foster some of the senior dogs for us, or temporary fosters. But I feel that I am, if I'm going to take on a dog, I want to know that if something happens with the foster, I need to be able to house that dog here.
Uh-oh.
Because in the very beginning, when we first started, I used fosters often, and I was put in a position several times that I can't keep the dog anymore.
Shoot.
Come and get it. And it's like, well, I don't have any place for it. That's why, I'm using you for a foster. And then you have to try to scramble to find another foster. So I typically don't pull dogs that I can house here and go into knowing that the dog may come back in a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever the case may be. So the majority of the dogs we have, I think I have 5 dogs in foster right now. We have some really great people that will take our hospice dogs, which is wonderful, where we've done everything we could medically. They don't need to be here seeing the vet, a couple times a week or whatever. It's just basically, end of life care. So we have some wonderful people that work with us doing that. So basically, if I'm going to commit and pull a dog, and be able to send it, send it to somebody who offers to foster it, and I send it to a foster. I need to know that if something happens that the foster, can't keep that dog, that I have a place for it here. So I've been in situations when we first started, because we were, running the rescue at a very small house. And at the time I was pulling all pit bulls. So, you can only have so many pit bulls inside the house. So I was using fosters, and I would get these calls, at night, like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I need you to come get the dog. And then it's like,
Mhm.
okay, where am I going to put the dog? So then
Right.
you're scrambling for more fosters. And I know a lot of places rely on fosters, and a lot of dogs get saved that way. But I feel like it's actually less work for me to actually take care of the dogs ourselves
Yeah,
than it
that
is to
makes sense.
manage the fosters, manage vet appointments, and making sure they get there. And I hear these horror stories from these foster based rescues, and well, I so appreciate their work. I can't even imagine like having to deal with that just all day on a regular basis, and worrying, oh my God, what if the dog gets out, and
Mhm.
so many different things. So I like to, I have that control, the care, custody, and control chain when they're on site here. And like I said, I just feel like it's a lot less work, and we were
Yeah.
fortunate to be able to get this property and, build here and expand. And we just put a new building up, and now we've got the clinic, and we're doing a lot of, free spay and neuters through grants that we're getting, and trying to get the most overbred and shelter populated dogs, reduce that population somehow, uh, along with education and adoption, obviously, and all of that. But I do have some fosters, like for hospice dogs. We've done really everything we can medically and they don't need to see our vet, constantly. I'll send them to hospice, and yeah, this way, they have a little bit more of that one-on-one that they
Right.
really need at the end.
Yeah. And then as far as adopters, what's your limitation on fosters? What states do you adopt to?
Well, it depends. Um, if it's somebody, I won't send a dog out sight unseen.
Mhm.
So if somebody lives in another state, I'm not going to say, "Oh yeah, I'll find transport and send it up," because that could be a disaster. What if the
Mhm.
dog is not a good fit? What if there's a problem? Then you're scrambling to get the dog back. Now, if people are down here, and you know, depending on the circumstances, as if they meet the dog, if the whole family's here, if they have another pet, if that pet is here, if I feel comfortable, then I will let the dog go to a different state. And so far, knock wood in my forehead, that we've been very fortunate in the few times we've done that.
Mhm. And if someone did want to adopt, especially, someone that lives in Florida or especially like, kinda like South Florida, do you guys have the adoption application and all of that on your website?
We do. And we make it really simple. My biggest thing is that the pet is a good fit for the home life and the lifestyle of the person or family. I think that's the biggest, most important thing. Um, Obviously, there can't be any type of, animal abuse in the background or people abuse in the background of the person. But
Mhm.
I know we do our due diligence, but not to the point where we're over judgmental and dogs never get adopted.
Right.
And we have a really low return rate, which we're very fortunate, because again, I do my best to fit the personality of the dog with the people that are adopting the dog
Right.
or any animal that we have here.
Yeah. And then as far as obviously you need adopters and we need to get these dogs out so you can make more
Yes,
room for more.
right,
But
exactly, because they're coming fast and furious.
yes, what are some of the other needs that you guys have right now?
Well, we always need hands on. We have a very small staff. Obviously, donations to care for the animals that we do have. Um, Grants to do the medical services. We also do a lot of medical services to keep more dogs at home. Right. So somebody goes to the ER with their dog, it broke its leg, let's say, and or any vet, and then they want $5,000, and the people are like, "Well, I don't have that kind of money. So what am I going to do? I have to put my dog down or surrender it to the vet." They can come to us and get that surgery done for a fraction of the cost. And then there's a foundation that we work with that helps dog owners when they're in this kind of situation, and typically they'll pay for half. So even at my low discounted rate, then half of it is paid. Most people can manage to afford that. We do low cost vaccines, things of that nature, because the more dogs we can keep at home and out of the shelter system, the better, and the
Right.
less we have to do. So I'm always looking for ways, even when people call me, I had 7 surrender calls today alone.
Oh,
One
wow.
person had 3 dogs, another person had 2 dogs, and the rest were singular. So it's constant. This is every single day, plus the calls from the county that are coming in, which is again my focus and my priority.
Mhm.
So I'll ask people, well, why is it you have to surrender? And they'll say, well, I just don't spend enough time. She has to go out, more often than when I'm home. Get a pet sitter, get the, I try to, I try to make people think a minute before they just give up.
Right.
A lot of times, unfortunately, there's no out, there's no possibility. The situation is dire. I understand that, but in cases where it's, a simple fix, we always try to educate on that.
And I think what a lot of people don't understand, kind of to your point about the owner surrenders, we're seeing more people surrender now that they're going back to work and they're not working from home. They say, I don't have the time for my dog. And most dogs would be totally fine laying on your couch or laying in their kennel
All
for,
day. They're sleeping
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, exactly. They would prefer that rather than sitting in a shelter or being surrounded by a bunch of dogs or other people
Ex-
that they don't know.
exactly. And it risks. it risks their life, plain and
Right.
simple, because
Yeah.
these open admission shelters only have so much room. So
Yeah.
what do you do? The old longest residents, they're the ones that are going to suffer when the new ones come in, and it's sad. And the rescues can only do so much.
Right.
It's got to be, the people have to do better. They really do. They have
Yeah.
to do better. They made a commitment, and I tell people this all the time. We were very fortunate. We were very cautious during COVID, when we were adopting. We didn't do a ton of adoptions, and the ones that we did, we made it clear, like, were you planning on getting a pet before? Like, in other words, don't get a pet because you're bored sitting at home, you
Right.
know. And then when you go, you have to acclimate the dog back to you being gone. Because I
Mhm.
hear, oh, since I went back to work, the dog is destroying my furniture and this, that, and the other thing. Well, sure, you spend 24/7 with it, and now you're spending, what, 3 hours, right? A few minutes in the morning, quick, go outside, eat, love, whatever. And then same thing in the evening, and you have your dinner, and you sit a little while, whatever you do, we'll take a walk, and then you're going to bed, which
Mhm.
is mostly what the dog wants to do anyway. So
Right.
they had to acclimate the dog, go out for little bits at a time, longer, and do other things. I keep, even here, and I'm in and out of these buildings all the time. I keep a TV or a radio on. Gives them a little distraction, a little sense of somebody else is there. But they've got other dogs here. Obviously, that may not be the case in each home, but there are ways to reacclimate them to you being gone 8 or 9 or 10 hours a day. It is
Mhm.
possible to do. So rather than just give up, it's a little bit of training on both ends is what
Yeah.
needs to happen. But I think, even more so than that is the economy. The economy is so bad. Housing is skyrocketing. People can't afford, like, Palm Beach County, the property has just gone through the roof. Rent has gone through the roof. People
Mhm.
are downsizing, moving in with family that already has pets. These pets may not get along. That is a huge part of the reason why we're seeing this. And then the cost of groceries. So we're seeing now, dogs that are really, in terrible shape because people can't afford to feed them. It's either
Right.
feed them or feed themselves, or pay their mortgage, or have, a surgery done on for their pet. And the times are so hard for people right now. Your average person, right? The stock market may be booming, but what percentage of the population is that in reality?
Mhm. Right,
It's a
exactly.
very small percentage. So the rest of us, who are quote unquote the average guy, right?
Mhm.
We can barely make ends meet to take care of ourselves right now, and insurance going up, and homeowners, car insurance, all these things, and the pets are the ones that are having to suffer for it, and it's really a shame.
And I think that's an educational component as well, and I appreciate you guys addressing that because if someone right now can barely afford their rent or can barely afford groceries, now is not the time to adopt a dog. Even if you think
Absolutely.
Yeah, even if you think you're saving that dog and you have good intentions, if you can't afford it, do not do it right now. I promise it will make the situation worse in the long run.
Exactly. That is so true.
So, does Barky Pines have any upcoming events or anything going on down in Palm Beach?
Well, we're coming into the end of season now, and rainy season and whatnot. So events will definitely start to wind down very soon. But we are going to be celebrating our 10th anniversary, which is really exciting. So we're going to have a big event here at the farm, a little towards the end of the summer, once hurricane season kind of winds down, because summers here are so unpredictable. We do a 5K every year. This was our fifth year. We just had it in February, and we were trying to do it in the summer, even in the evening. But the weather is so
Yeah.
unpredictable, and we've had to postpone and postpone. And so, really, in the summertime in Florida, it's really tough to do events. I would love to have some great venue inside where we didn't have to worry about that, but we're not. We don't have that at the moment. But yeah, we will be celebrating, of course, our 10th with a big event here at the farm. This way, people can come out. They could see, people that have been, supporters of ours since the beginning. See the progress. They come out here, but a lot of people that support us have never been out here. So we want to try to invite them in and show them, all the work that we're doing, right,
That's awesome.
firsthand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's amazing. You guys are coming on 10 years. Like, a lot of rescues don't make it that long, so you guys have really been at it, and you're doing something right, that's for sure.
Thank you. And we're growing like by leaps and bounds. It's just really mind blowing. I mean, we've doubled our capacity because there's a need for it. We were just able to put up another building thanks to some very amazing foundation partners that work with us. And we, like I said, we've got the clinic now. So we've got so much going on. And with the clinic, it's great because not only am I able to help other people, but I'm able to take on dogs with more medical needs because
Mhm.
we're veterinary care. I mean, we didn't even really get to this, but as part of the economy, veterinary care has gone through the roof.
Oh,
And what we're
absolutely.
seeing a lot of is a lot of corporations taking over these private practices.
Mhm.
And corporations are all about the bottom line, and the fancy office and the big huge overhead, so the prices are tripling, and people just can't afford that. Even regular care, I get people all the time like, oh, how much for a spay and neuter? And I give them the price, and like, oh my God, my vet wanted $1,000. And I'm like, how can people afford that? And then we wonder why we have this overpopulation, because maybe those people didn't intend to breed their dog, but guess what? The dogs don't know that.
Right.
And, now next thing you know, Joe's dog next door hopped the fence and Janie's having seven puppies,
Mhm.
and Bill doesn't know what to do with these puppies. And guess what? They're going to the shelter, or they're just going to get handed out to anybody that can take them, or maybe buy them, even worse. And then in a year or so, those dogs will end up in the shelter. So if we can, doing having the clinic helps me. I can save so much by doing it in house with really a very low overhead, other
Mhm.
than the vet staff. We've got a veterinarian, we've got two technicians, actually three, that come on different days, and myself, my sister, and we have one staff member that helps work in there too and do the appointments and everything. But I'm saving so much money just like a heartworm treatment and everything else, because now I'm doing it at my cost, where I was paying, the outside vets more in the long run.
Yeah.
So now I can take dogs with fractures because we could do those in house. I could take, major dental cases. I was spending like $2,000 to do full dentals on a senior dog.
Yeah, believe me, I know all
Yeah.
about that.
Right. So I'm doing that for people, pulling every tooth out of their mouth. I think the most expensive dental we ever did, and that included blood work, was under $800.
Oh, wow.
Right. So, and I could do that for myself at that price. You know what I mean? It's like, then I can help more dogs, because think of how long it takes to recoup $2,000 on a senior dog that I don't have an adoption fee on.
Right.
I just want that dog to have a great life for however much time it has left. So, I'm not worried about, you know, and you can't make back what you've spent. And so I spend $2,000, and I got to figure out, well, how am I going to do that so I can help more
Mhm.
dogs?
Yeah.
So and when I started this whole process, this basically strategic plan to expand like this, I was like, I can save myself, the rescue, $50,000 a year, easy. And
Mhm.
it's actually, because we're taking more extensive cases, probably a lot more than that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely made an impact, and where we are, there's a lot of need. So I'm really glad that we're able to be here. We work with the county. We're a stray hold facility for the county if I have space. So if somebody finds a dog and they don't want to bring it to the county, or the dog is scared, or whatever the case may be, if I've got the space, the dog can come here, and it's the
Mhm.
same legally as if it were sitting at the county shelter. We
Yeah.
also do the TNVR for them, for the cat trappers, for the community cats. So they trap the cats, they bring them to us. We do the surgery. We have that agreement with the county, and we're doing now the at-risk dogs for them. So if they get a complaint, or they happen, they go to your house, whatever, and you've got a pit bull or a chihuahua, or you're just maybe on services, and you can't afford to have your animals spayed, instead of them getting violated, they say, okay, go to Barky Pines, get your animals spayed or neutered, and then you're good to go. And
Mhm.
that is fantastic, right? So it stops pregnancy, it keeps the dog out of the shelter system. The person doesn't have to get a fine. They're compliant. It's wonderful. But then you've got these cases, and we kind of touched on that before we started, where people are doing terrible things
Mhm.
and the county's getting involved and probably taking that pet away, or it's picked up as a stray, and there's no consequence for
Right.
the people. They surrender the pet. Say, oh no, the fine's $300, whatever. Now keep the dog, and they walk out of the room, out of the building, and there's no repercussion. They surrender the dog. That's it. So what? Why are they not going to go out and do the same thing again? And I'm going to use this as a prime example. We got a quote unquote desirable breed dog that was ready to give birth, a dog that requires a C-section in order to give birth, which a lot of these people don't know.
Mhm.
And the dog was picked up as a stray. They called me because they didn't want a very pregnant mother to have her puppies there. They called me, asked me, to take the dog. I did. Either later that day or the next day, the owner shows up at the county to redeem her dog. Oh, it's going to be a couple $100s. And, no, keep it. Okay, bye. Sign here. See you later. What's to stop that person now? Because it didn't cost her anything. She's probably bred this dog 5 or 6 times already. Didn't
Right.
cost her a thing. She lost one litter of puppies. So what? Now she's going to go out and buy another one, or maybe has 10 more at home. Who knows? Because nobody ever goes to check.
Mhm.
So what does she care? She walks away to do it all over again.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there has to be changes, many different changes in the ordinances and the laws to protect the animals and to stop this cycle that we're seeing. We get a lot of really neglected, abused dogs, and occasionally there are charges pressed. I will give them that. Occasionally there are. But
Mhm.
typically, that's only when they don't want to surrender.
Mhm. Right.
So if they do, then like I said, it's okay, bye, see you later. But if they don't, then they'll take it to court and let the judge decide. But it's not enough, and changes need to be made locally and statewide, really federally, because I'm sure Florida is not the only state that this is happening.
Right, and kinda how you were talking about that breeder that came in, or we'll call her a breeder even though she doesn't deserve that title, but
Yeah,
the backyard breeder, there's really no record of that. So these people who are buying from these quote unquote reputable breeders, you don't know their history. You don't know
right,
how many dogs they've had dropped off at the shelter, how many dogs maybe they've just dumped somewhere, they've euthanized, they've given away after they've, used them to their
right.
capacity. They had 10, 11 litters and then they dumped them. So I don't think the public sees a lot of that and they want to believe, oh no, the breeder I talked to, she's very nice and she's great, but they don't
Mm,
know that backstory.
exactly. Exactly. And it's never made public, and that's a shame.
Yeah.
I had somebody come in with a very sickly puppy, and I said, well, get the other puppies in here. They had no shots or anything yet. And she says, okay, we have two. I said, oh, it's a big dog. She only had 3 puppies. No, we already gave the others away.
Oh, wow.
No shots, no deworming, no
Yeah.
nothing. One ended up dying.
Oh.
I'll spay and neuter them, the parents, for free. Well, you could do the girl, but I don't want to do the boy.
Oh,
So now
wow.
we come into this cultural thing, which is
Mhm.
another issue, which education is the only way to address that problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I don't, my dog won't be a man anymore. Your dog's not a man now, he's a dog.
Right. Your dog has no idea. He doesn't know what you're talking about.
Exactly, exactly. So, there's that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I know. We could
it's
probably go on, and I think you guys have some resources on your website, right?
we do.
What's
Yeah.
your website for everyone?
It's Barky Pines Animal Rescue.com. And remember, no E in Barky.
Barky.
Correct.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us and just helping educate our listeners. I hope everyone goes and supports Barky Pines, follow them on social media, be on the lookout for that 10 10-year anniversary party. And
Yes.
like I said, just thank you guys for helping. You guys are going above and beyond in the animal community, so we appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me and giving me this platform to speak and, try to get that message out there. So thank
Absolutely.
you. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Canine Culture Podcast. Please make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform and make sure you're following us on social media. If you have any recommendations, any topics that you'd like to hear, if you know of any guests that would be good for the show, or if you yourself want to be a guest, please reach out to us. Send us an email at canineculturepodcast@gmail.com or send us a direct message on social media. Thank you for listening, and please share this with any of your dog-loving friends.